Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got something a little different lined up for you today.
Yeah, it's a bit of a departure from the usual.
It really is. I mean, usually we're tearing apart a specific trend or, looking at a piece of new tech, maybe analyzing a historical event. But today we're looking at a methodology.
Right. A whole philosophy, really.
Exactly. We have this massive stack of sources here, articles, book excerpts, philosophical treatises, and they are all centered around this one concept called the architecture of a compounding life.
And I have to say, the voices in this stack are, well, it's a very eclectic mix.
Oh, it's an incredible dinner party list. I mean, we've got Seth Godin, we have
Mm.
Napoleon Hill, some Stoic philosophers, and we even have Tom Brady in here.
You wouldn't normally expect Epictetus and a modern NFL quarterback to be saying the exact same thing.
No, but they really are. And the mission of this specific deep dive, it seems to be pretty radical. It feels like a direct response to the culture we are all swimming in right now.
Oh, absolutely, because we are so obsessed with speed right now.
Yes, we want the hack, right? The pivot, the viral moment, that overnight breakthrough. And these sources are basically looking at that and saying, stop. You are doing it wrong. You are building on sand.
Completely. The central thesis here is that we have wildly overrated the concept of the breakthrough, and we vastly underrated the concept of compounding.
We all love the movie montage.
Right. The character realizes they need to change. They train for like, what, 3 minutes of screen time
Yeah.
with some upbeat music playing in the background?
And suddenly they win the championship.
Exactly. But real life sustainable life is about slow, structural growth. It's boring to watch, honestly, but it is thrilling to live if you do it right.
So let's get into the nuts and bolts of this structural growth. The text opens with this foundational observation from Napoleon Hill. And it's just a short sentence, but it seems to carry the weight of the entire argument. He writes, "It takes a habit to replace a habit."
It is deceptive in its simplicity. It takes a habit to replace a habit. Most people just read that and nod. But think about what he isn't saying there.
Right.
He isn't saying it takes a decision to replace a habit. He isn't saying it takes willpower.
Or a New Year's resolution.
Exactly. Hill is arguing that that whole idea of intense resolve is a fantasy. Change is not a magical event. It's structural displacement. It's physics.
Because you can't simply remove a behavior and leave a vacuum. You have to actively crowd it out with a new one. The source material emphasizes that we don't become who we want to be, we become who we repeatedly are.
And that is a terrifying distinction. We become who we repeatedly are.
It really is.
It should be terrifying. It removes the luxury of intent.
Right, because who we want to be is this idealized, shiny version of ourselves in the future. But who we repeatedly are is just, well, it's what I did this morning.
Precisely. It's the extra cup of coffee, the scrolling on the phone, skipping the gym.
Yeah, and that's why this isn't just a productivity tip, it is a philosophy of identity. If you want to change, you have to build a totally new structure of habits that makes the old behavior impossible, or at least irrelevant.
You are literally engaging in the architecture of your own life. You are renovating the house while you are living inside it.
Okay, so if we accept that we need to build these habits to crowd out the old ones,
Yeah.
we hit the first major roadblock that the sources identify, and that is time.
We hate waiting.
Oh, we do. We want the compounding to happen right now.
And that brings us to the first major pillar of this architecture. Time is the unseen driver. The sources bring in Seth Godin here, and he uses an analogy that I think is incredibly helpful for visualizing this.
He talks about a business model, right, but applied to a human life.
He does, and I want you to really picture this. Godin uses the example of a pizza place.
Okay, so say I open a pizza place. I take flour, water, cheese, these raw materials that cost very little, and I transform them into a slice of pizza. And I sell that slice for a profit. That is the value engine.
Exactly.
But the point Godin makes is that I don't master that transformation on day one.
Right. On opening day, the dough might be tough, the sauce is probably bland, your oven runs way too hot, and nobody even knows you exist yet.
So if you look at the balance sheet of your life on day 1 or even day 30, it looks like a total failure.
It does. You are putting in immense effort, sweating over that oven and getting very little out. And this is exactly where most of us quit.
We look at the spreadsheet of our effort versus reward and we say, well, this isn't working. I need to pivot. I need a new hack.
But Godin says, it doesn't work the first day. It needs to work eventually. That is the key distinction. You are building a machine, whether that's your career, a relationship, a creative skill, that is designed to work eventually. You are building an asset.
It's an investment phase. You have to be willing to be in the red for a while.
You do. The source also mentions the jazz musician. Think about her business model.
Right, she spends thousands of hours practicing scales, learning music theory, just sitting alone in a room.
And then she finally records an album. And that album might barely break even financially.
So from a short-term efficiency perspective, that's a terrible business. A consultant would absolutely tell her to quit.
A bad consultant would, yeah. But those recordings are the asset. They open the door to a gig. The gig introduces her to a producer. The producer gets her a much better slot.
The business model of her life actually works, but it has a very long runway. It relies entirely on the back end of the curve.
And the takeaway there seems to be that past success makes future success more likely. A useful model gets easier over time, but you have to survive the beginning.
You have to survive the quiet years.
And survival requires a very specific relationship with time. We have a note here from Robert Greene, the author of The 48 Laws of Power. He urges us to choose time as your critical variable.
What does that actually look like in practice, though? Because we all feel like we don't have enough time. We are constantly rushed.
It means you have to treat time as a raw material that you are actively allocating, not just something that passes you by. And this really connects to the Stoic perspective included in the notes. Epictetus.
Epictetus, who we should remind everyone, was born a slave.
Which is incredibly important context here. He owned nothing. He didn't own his own body. He didn't own property. He understood that the only thing you truly own is your mind and your time, your attention.
And he said, it's not that life is short, it's that we waste it.
Ouch.
That hits hard.
It shifts the blame, doesn't it?
It really does.
If we feel like we don't have enough time to build this compounding life, it's usually because we are drifting.
We are reacting to emails, to the news, to other people's emergencies. We are letting other people spend our time for us.
Every single day is a decision between building or drifting.
Okay, so let's say we stop drifting. We decide to build. We respect time as our critical variable. The next piece of the puzzle in these documents is about how we actually move forward. And this is where we get into momentum.
Right. Because you can respect time all day long and just sit in an empty room thinking about it.
Having the perfect philosophy and zero results.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That doesn't build anything.
There is a quote here from Sun Tzu from The Art of War that I think is honestly one of the best lines in this whole stack. Opportunities multiply as they are seized.
It's a profound idea. We tend to think that opportunities are just sitting out there somewhere, waiting for us to find them, like a treasure hunt or Easter eggs hidden in the grass.
But Sun Tzu is saying that the act of seizing an opportunity creates new opportunities. It's generative.
The source material describes this almost like physics. Think of it like a corridor.
Okay.
You are standing in a hallway and you see 3 doors. If you just stand still, you will only ever see those 3 doors. You can analyze them, debate which one is best, worry about what's behind them.
But the moment you walk through one, the moment you seize that opportunity, you enter a new room. And that room has 3 new doors that you physically could not see from the hallway.
That is such a great visual. Action reveals the next step.
You can't plan your way to the second room. You literally have to move to see it.
Action creates information. This is exactly why the sources are so critical of over-planning or analysis paralysis. There's a quote from Simon Sinek in the stack. The best way to find out if it will work is to do it.
Which sounds risky to a lot of people. We are taught to look before we leap.
It is risky. But staying in the hallway is riskier because, as the source warns us, inaction compounds too.
That is the flip side. We usually think of compounding as a universally good thing, like interest in a bank account. But debt compounds too.
And hesitation is a debt. Hesitation is a habit.
If you wait for perfect conditions, if you wait until you feel ready, you are actually practicing waiting.
You're getting better at hesitating.
Practicing waiting, that is a brutal way to put it. It implies that by doing nothing, we are actually doing something very active. We are calcifying our fear.
That's the replacement concept again from Napoleon Hill. If you don't replace the hesitation with action, the hesitation holds the ground. It solidifies. It just becomes your default setting.
So we have time as the driver. We have momentum as the engine. Now I want to shift to something that feels a bit counterintuitive. The source brings in Peter Drucker, the legendary management consultant, and he talks about the function of loss.
This is fascinating. This is the Drucker paradox, or at least that's how I read it. Drucker argues that the greatest strength of a private enterprise isn't actually its ability to make a profit. It's the function of loss.
Walk us through that, because we usually think the entire goal of a business is simply to make money.
Drucker contrasts a business with a government agency or a charitable institution. Now, putting all politics aside, just structurally speaking, a government agency is designed to be permanent.
Right.
It's designed to provide stability. So if a program isn't working, it rarely gets shut down. It often gets more funding to fix it. There is no mechanism that forces it to die.
It completely lacks the pressure of survival.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a predator.
Correct. But a business.
Hmm.
If a bakery makes bread that tastes like cardboard, the consumer asks, what will this do for me tomorrow? If the answer is nothing, they stop buying.
The bakery runs out of money. It closes. It vanishes.
And Drucker says this is a good thing.
He says it's the essential thing. The vulnerability is what forces the business to adapt, to innovate, to stop doing stupid things. The threat of loss is what keeps the whole system healthy. It prunes the dead weight.
Okay, so how does this apply to the architecture of a compounding life? Because we aren't businesses. We can't just go out of business.
But we should operate like we can, in this very specific sense. The deep dive calls this the reprivatization of self.
Privatization of self. Break that down for us.
It means we need to look at our own habits, our own projects, even our own identities, and subject them to that same market pressure.
We have to be willing to look at a part of our life, maybe the toxic friendship or a hobby that's going nowhere or a way of working that used to be successful but just isn't anymore, and we have to be able to shut it down.
We have to let it go bankrupt.
Exactly. We hold on to things just because they are familiar. We act like that government agency keeping the failed program alive just because that's how we've always done it.
Reprivatization means having the courage to prune the deadwood so the actual tree can grow.
That requires a level of resilience that most of us really don't practice. We tend to think resilience means never quitting.
But note how the source defines resilience here. It references Seth Godin again. Resilience isn't rigidity. It's not about just standing there and taking a beating.
Resilience is the capacity to adjust when the world changes.
If you cannot admit loss, you cannot grow. You just become stagnant.
It's interesting how this connects right back to the time element, too.
Yeah.
If you are spending your time propping up a failed program in your life, you aren't using that time to compound something new.
You are stealing from your own future to subsidize your past.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, moving on. The source material takes a pretty sharp turn here. We've talked about strategy, business models, physics. Now it gets environmental. And, frankly, a bit moral.
There is a heavy line here. You can't deal in filth and not become like the thing you touch.
This is the input section. And I think this is where the compounding idea gets genuinely scary. We often think we can consume garbage content, or hang around cynical people, or engage in petty internet arguments, and somehow keep our real self totally clean.
Like we are wearing a hazmat suit.
Right. I'm just watching this trash TV, ironically, or I'm just arguing with this troll for fun. We think we are completely separate from it.
But the source argues that the hazmat suit does not exist. You become what you touch. Your brain doesn't distinguish between ironic consumption and real consumption. It is all just input.
There is a quote from Carlos Castaneda here that I found really striking. He says, "We either make ourselves miserable or we make ourselves strong. The amount of work is the same."
That equation is haunting. The amount of work is the same.
Think about the massive energy required to be miserable, to maintain a complex web of anxieties, grudges, jealousies, bad habits.
It is exhausting.
It takes incredible effort to be dysfunctional.
So the argument is that discipline isn't necessarily harder work. It's just directed differently.
It's a reallocation of energy. Instead of burning calories on the maintenance of the bad, you burn them on the construction of the good. It totally changes the way you look at hard work.
To help visualize this, the text brings in a sports analogy. Horst Wayne, he was a legendary hockey and soccer coach, and he gave this advice to his players. Don't worry about the opponent, make them worry about you.
By keeping possession of the ball.
Right, possession.
Now, translate that to the game of life. Possession isn't a soccer ball. It is your attention. It is your focus.
If I'm just scrolling through social media getting angry at a random headline,
You do not have the ball.
the headline has the ball.
The algorithm has the ball. You are chasing. You are in a defensive, purely reactive state. You are letting the outside world dictate your internal emotional state. And you absolutely cannot build a compounding life while you are stuck on defense.
So possession means keeping your attention on your own agenda.
It means guarding your inputs. If you want to build this architecture, you have to be ruthless about what you allow onto the building site. You cannot build a cathedral if you are letting people dump trash on the foundation every single day.
Which leads us directly inward. We've talked about the outside world, time, momentum, inputs. But the source quotes Ralph Waldo Emerson here. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us.
The inner architecture.
Mm.
Because you can have the best business model from Godin and the best momentum strategy from Sun Tzu, but if the internal structure is weak, the whole thing eventually collapses under stress.
And here we get a very unexpected source for a deep dive on philosophy. We go from Emerson to Tom Brady.
The quarterback. But look, say whatever you want about him. The guy played at an elite level well past the age when most players are forced to retire.
His formula for success is in here, and it is deceptively profound. He says, find out what's good, find out what's bad, do more good and less bad.
It sounds so simple, it's almost stupid. Do more good, less bad. But try actually doing it. Try doing it consistently for 20 years.
That's the catch. It's not a knowledge problem.
No.
We all know that eating vegetables is good and doom scrolling at 2 a.m. is bad. We know that sleeping is good and staying up is bad.
Exactly. It is a character problem. It's an execution problem.
Yeah.
Brady's point, and really the point of this entire deep dive, is that you have to treat these choices as deposits. You deposit the good choices rep by rep until they literally become who you are.
He didn't just decide to be healthy one day. He compounded health.
And that leads us to what the source material calls the hardest challenge. This is the ultimate test of that inner architecture. And this is where the text pivots to something spiritual.
Agape love.
Yeah.
Yep.
And to be clear, this isn't the love of a romantic comedy.
No, the source defines this specifically as the love for your enemies, for those who actively persecute you. And I know you listening to this might be thinking, wait, we were just talking about business models and soccer strategies. Why are we suddenly talking about loving our enemies?
It feels like a non sequitur. It feels religious, not strategic.
But look at the time frame we were discussing. We are talking about compounding over a lifetime. To love an enemy, to not react, to not seek revenge, to genuinely wish them well despite their attacks, requires the longest possible time horizon.
It is the ultimate strategic move.
It goes right back to possession of the ball, doesn't it?
Completely. If I hate you, you own a piece of my mind. You are living rent-free in my head. I am planning my revenge. I am ruminating on what you said.
You are reacting to
I
that.
don't have the ball. But if I love you, in the agape sense of willing your good despite your actions, I am free. I have completely neutralized your ability to control me. I am in full possession of myself.
So it is the ultimate power move. It's not weakness at all. It's absolute strength.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
It is the ultimate display of internal strength. And the source points out this isn't a flash of emotion. You don't just feel agape love. You do it.
It is a habit.
It has to be practiced. Just like the soccer drills or the jazz scales, you literally practice not reacting. You practice wishing people well.
And that connects to the final piece of this architecture, legacy. We have a quote from JFK in the stack. A president governs not only for the living, but for those yet to live.
Which applies to us, too. We govern our own lives.
We do. And the habits we build radiate outward. If you are angry, reactive, cynical, that radiates to your kids, your colleagues, your friends. You are polluting their architecture.
But if you cultivate this agape love, if you cultivate discipline and compounding growth, that radiates too. You are building the architecture for the people who come after you.
You are compounding value for people you might never even meet.
So let's zoom out a bit. We've covered a lot of ground here today. If we look at this architecture of a compounding life as a whole, what are we actually looking at?
We are looking at a loop, a massive feedback loop.
Walk me through the cycle.
It starts with the realization that there is no overnight success. You accept that time is the driver. You stop waiting and start moving to create momentum, understanding that action reveals the path.
You embrace the function of loss, that reprivatization, to strictly prune away what doesn't work.
You guard your inputs to protect your attention. And you build an inner architecture capable of sustaining the long game, even the incredibly hard game of loving your enemies.
And at the center of all of it,
Napoleon Hill. It takes a habit to replace a habit.
it really does come back to that. It's not about finding a way, it's about making one.
The source ends with a rallying cry that I think we should leave everyone with. It's a bit intense, but it absolutely fits the mission. Find your purpose and fling your life out to it. Self-made or never made.
Fling your life out to it. I love the energy of that. It's active, it's desperate in a really good way.
It is total commitment. It's saying, I am going to use up this life for something.
Because here's the final thought to mull over. If you don't choose what compounds in your life, the world is going to choose for you.
And the world's default is always distraction. The world's default is drifting. If you aren't deliberately building your own architecture, you're just renting space in someone else's.
Touch only what you wish to become.
That is the rule. Look at your habits today. Not what you wish you were doing, but what you were actually doing. Because that is exactly who you are becoming. Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.